Canby, Oregon is located 23 miles southeast of Portland on Highway 99E, right down along the Willamette River. And we have been living in Portland for 2 years, and we're able to sell our house and make the move to Canby when we received the call to take over the church, the New Life Church in Canby. So we were moving, and the time we moved was early August. Catherine was just turning 10 years old. Chris was, in fact, we celebrated Chuck E. Cheese for our 10th birthday during this move. Chris was about 6 months old. Karen was almost 12. And so we made our way down, and we found a place. They'd found a place for us, actually, where we could live temporarily. There was a couple who were teachers that had moved back east somewhere, and their house was available for us to stay a few weeks or months. I think it was contingent on a sell, which didn't happen in the time that we were there. And so finally we were able to get a lease option on a house in Canby, closer into the city itself, in the residential area. And we were there in December, moved there by December. So we were loaded up a trailer, a car, and then some of the guys came up to the church to help us load up and come down and get settled. And we were on the highway, the freeway, and we got pulled over by a highway patrolman. There was an issue with the trailer that we were towing, and I was driving the vehicle, I think. Anyway, we all got out there and started talking to this guy, and he pointed out the problem with the trailer, and it was a light or something in the back. And so I said, well, I'm sorry about that. He said, so what's going on? So I told him what we were doing, that I was moving down and to pastor a church. And so we're just a bunch of guys moving our stuff down because they're what we do, you know. And he goes, well, we talked for a while. He says, yeah, I'm going to let you go. Yeah, I'm going to let you go. And so we did. We got down there and we're unloading it. And one of the elders who was helping on the move came up to me and he said, wow. He said, I can't believe you talked that highway patrolman out of a ticket. And I said, well, I don't know if I talked him out of it, but he says, yeah, but we should have got a ticket, and he said, so I don't know. I think I'm going to listen to you on other things you say, because that was impressive that you were able to talk him out of that. So we unloaded, and we were in this place. It had been empty for a couple of months at least, this home, and we some of us were thirsty. We got some water, and turns out that two of us got this protozoa, a flagellated protozoa. And I was one of them that got it. The elder, Doug, and his wife, was Lori, and Lori got it. Unfortunately for Lori, she was pregnant, so she couldn't take the medication that I eventually got for myself. Felt really bad about that. But I found we got a doctor, and that's where it got determined that that's what it was. And I can remember looking through the microscope to see this little thing around, and the gal says, that's what's in your system and your intestines. And I said, gee, that's what's causing all that problem. I mean, the gas pockets were enormous and painful. And so we're in the basement, in the lab at the hospital, and I said, I need medication. She said, well, the doctor will have to prescribe that. And he starts on Monday again. And I said, no, I really need it now. It had been several days, and I was in pain and not able to do much. So I said, can you call him? She says, well, he's newly married. I mean, he was married for a while, but he had a newborn in the house. And I said, I'm sorry for that. I really am. I know what that's like. But if you could just at least call him. If he doesn't pick up, we'll figure something else out. But I really do need some relief here. So she called him. He was gracious and prescribed something and made it available. It was Flagyl. Made it available across the street at the pharmacy. I went over there, and the whole family, we drove straight from church. We drove over there and got the medication, and I popped the first pill sitting in the parking lot. So we're going to start this now. And by that evening, I felt better, and then I eventually got over that. But that was my start. the first few days anyway, a couple of weeks were a bit painful. So we're grateful to the Lord for placing us there, and it was um, really really a gift from Him. And it was the name of the church is New Life, and New Life was on Territorial Road outside the city limits. The county rodeo was inside the city limits, but our church was not, just outside north of the city, and it had like 3 acres or so, and it was a nice setting. And it was just I don't know, we really needed New Life, and that was the name of the church, but that really became our experience, because for the previous 2 years were kind of tough, and here we are now in this setting, and the church began to grow, and in the first 6 months we had 50 people that came to faith in Christ. We were baptizing people. The church was growing, and some good things were happening. We were able to invite the pastor back who had started the church 7 years before, and had kind of given his final message and all that. But I said, well, we want to connect to you though, Jack, as you and Linda go back to Florida to start this church. And so I had him speak and talk about his vision. We prayed for him, and talked to the church council, and we set up to pay their life insurance for 2 years, so they could have that taken care of in relief, and it was actually a continuation of what they already had at the church, and that turned out really well. We it was a healing thing for us just to show up and see what the Lord was doing. I felt God's favor, and we certainly experienced the favor of the church, and both those who've been there and those who came. There was one guy that had been kind of ornery who came in after I did, and created a bit of a problem. And he, I won't get into the whole detail, but we I just had to pray on how to deal with him. But in any event, he wound up leaving, and it was not a problem with me per se. But it made me feel bad nevertheless, and all this good stuff was happening. And so I can remember going to church on a Saturday night, and I was praying. I said, "Lord, that's it, man. I welcomed that guy, and he burned me, and the church. Worse than that, burning me, burned the church." And so I don't know. I'm just not going to welcome anybody anymore. If you come, you come. If you don't, you don't. And I felt like the Lord said, "No, that's not what you're going to do. You're going to welcome everybody that comes through that door." And so I felt prompted by the Lord to get up from the altar where I was praying and walk back to the main door where people came in, and acted out, inviting a family, a husband and a wife, and 2 children. And so I acted that out and welcomed them and spoke the words and everything, went back and finished praying. And the following morning on Sunday, I'd already come out from down from the office. We're greeting people, and I looked over to the right, my right shoulder, and this couple kept walking that I didn't know with 2 children. So I did exactly what I had done the night before, just acting it out in space there by myself. And I greeted them, and got their names and the children's names, and welcomed them to the church. And it was about 3 weeks later. They were there. They like a lot of us, they tend to sit in the same area, the same seats, same row. And there they were, the 4 of them. And so I went up to them, and I said, it really is good to see you. I really, it's like your 3rd or 4th week. Is this, what do you feel like? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What do you think the Lord is saying? And she spoke up and said, well, I told Norm, I told my husband that we had experience in our previous church. We were just not, there were issues, and kind of been hurt by that a little bit. And she said, I will know it's the church we're supposed to go to is as we walk through the door, the pastor himself comes up and greets us and asks our names, and just, whatever else was a part of that conversation. And she said, and you did. And so we talk about that. Well, could this be it? I mean, he did exactly what I was sort of, the fleece I was putting out before the Lord. So that was how that's happened. And they stayed, and they were a really vital part of the church and continued way after the time that we left, after 3 years being in that place. So there was just a lot of good things, and God was bringing new life to a lot of people. We really were, by God's grace, living up to our name. It was certainly true for Connie and myself and our kids, as they were influenced by whatever we were going through. And it also became a foundation, a launching pad for our ministry overseas, our full-time ministry, going back outside the United States to international ministry. And so it just was a period where the new life, restored us, and we were part of the new life happening with other people. And then out the other side, after 3 years, launching us from there, it was a perfect launching pad for the next season of our life that started um, 34 years ago. New life. It was a good place for us and a lot of other folks, and I'm thankful to the Lord for putting all that together.